Today I'm sharing 3 recipes that are delicious, easy, cozy, perfect for fall or any time of year. The 3 recipes are teriyaki steak, apple cider latte syrup, and green chicken enchiladas. They are all unique and so tasty. If you're new here, I'm Amy. I'm a wife and a mom, and I love to share what I'm cooking for my family in the kitchen. Let's get started with teriyaki steak. This recipe is easy and so full of flavor. The first thing I'm doing is peeling the zucchini. You could leave the peels on if you don't mind them, and I'm just going to dice it up really small. Trying to get them about the same size, but it doesn't really matter too much. Now we're going to put that aside and get the onion diced up. I'm going to do half an onion. This onion is pretty big. I'll just save the other half for another recipe. And I'm going to go ahead and dice this up. In an effort to keep this super quick and easy, I'm actually just going to microwave it. We have a busy night tonight. One of my daughters has gymnastics, and so I just want dinner to be ready quick, and I want to be able to just top it with the enchilada sauce and the cheese right when I want to cook it, and I want it just to come together super fast, both at dinner time and now. It's in the morning now. I'm gonna go ahead, put it in a bowl, cover it, and I'm just gonna microwave it for 3 minutes just to get everything softened and cooked. It doesn't taste quite as good as when you add butter or oil and you get that kind of rich flavor, but it works with getting everything cooked. Next, I'm gonna do the chicken. So this is, I believe, the last thing I have to chop up. I'll also have to cut and juice a lime, but I'm gonna use this pre-cooked chicken breast. We really like this. You could use rotisserie chicken. You could make your own chicken right now in the oven, but I'm gonna go ahead and use this and chop it up into little pieces. You could, cut it however you want. I just like it in little kind of small bite-sized pieces. If you're doing a rotisserie chicken or throwing some, like a chicken breast in the Instant Pot or the crock pot or whatever, you could definitely shred it. I prefer my chicken diced, but do whatever you want. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all of this cut up. And now let's get the chicken in the bowl. It's a pretty big bowl because we're gonna mix everything in there, all of the filling. So the chicken goes in, as does the onion and the zucchini. I just cooked in the microwave. You could see the onion is translucent. I don't know if you can see that, but the onion is translucent. So it's nice and cooked. There's a little extra moisture from that zucchini, so I'm trying to keep that out. So a little water left in the bowl. I'm just gonna dump that out. Now I have some Greek yogurt. This is whole milk plain Greek yogurt, and I'm gonna put in about a half a cup. You can measure it if you want to be completely exact. About a half cup of cheese. You could use shredded Monterey Jack. This is actually mozzarella, Monterey Jack, and cheddar. It's this mix I got from Trader Joe's. So I'm gonna add about a half cup of that. I have cilantro. I'm just gonna go ahead and break that up in my hands. I don't care if I have some stems. I washed it really, really well because the cilantro was actually really dirty. Kind of gross, but you just wash it and everything's clean. So there we go. We're gonna get that in there. This is a 1/3 cup of enchilada sauce. I'm just gonna measure this out. We are doing green chicken enchiladas, so I have green enchilada sauce. I'm trying the Siete brand for the first time. And I'm gonna season it with cumin, oregano, garlic powder. You could use a garlic clove and mince that up. Pepper. You could do salt, but the chicken is already salted, the chicken that I used, so I'm not gonna add any more salt. And then the juice of a lime. I have a lemon and lime squeezer, and it gets out more juice than my hands do, but I just don't want to dirty another dish. This seems like it's gonna be a very flavorful filling. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this mixed up. And I actually need to take a break. I need to go pick up my daughter from preschool. So once I get this all stirred up, I'm just gonna store it in the fridge, and then I will assemble it later. So really all we have to do is put this mixture inside of tortillas, roll it up, put a little, put a little enchilada sauce, cheese in it, and then we can bake it up.
Do you make a lot of enchiladas? I used to make enchiladas when I was first married every week, I would say. I found a really good like black bean enchilada recipe. I made it all the time, but I don't really make enchiladas that much. If I'm gonna make like something for Taco Tuesday, I usually just make tacos because it's so easy. But spoiler, this recipe is very good. It had tons of flavor. Anyway, it's evening now, and I'm gonna go ahead and assemble the enchiladas. Originally, when I decided to make this recipe, I was going to completely assemble the enchiladas, put that in the fridge, and then just bake it at dinner time. But I decided just to keep it separate. I also pretty much ran out of time, so that helped me make my decision, and I didn't have that much space left in my fridge. So those two things did help me make my decision, but ultimately this worked really well because I was thinking the tortillas might get a little too soft and soggy, and this way worked really well. The original recipe actually said to like coat your tortillas, dip your tortillas in the enchilada sauce, but I wanted a crispier tortilla around the edge, and I just didn't want them to get soggy, so I just did the enchilada sauce a little bit underneath and then all over kind of the top, minus the edges, so we could get those crispy edges. But I went ahead and rolled up the tortillas. The first few I did not warm up the tortillas in the microwave. You could see this one rolled up way easier because I actually decided to heat all the rest of the tortillas in the microwave for a minute or so, and that really helped make them roll easier and stay together a little bit better. It just was easier to work with. So once I got all those enchiladas rolled up, I added the enchilada sauce on top, added some cheese on top, and I baked it in the oven. I did 400 for about 20 minutes. So this whole recipe actually only took 30 minutes, which is awesome. So nice and great. And I did about 10 minutes of prep in the morning, and it baked for 20 minutes. So really easy. Although filming did make it take a little bit longer just because I moved my camera around and all of that. But we all loved this. So good. It honestly had so much flavor. It wasn't too spicy, nothing overpowered anything. They were creamy, delicious. My one recommendation if you're going to put Greek yogurt in a recipe is to use whole milk Greek yogurt. I've used fat-free Greek yogurt, and it kind of like curdles when you heat it up. It's not good, but the whole milk Greek yogurt, it worked great. It was creamy. The lime juice gave it kind of that bright flavor. The fresh cilantro, I mean, it was full of flavor, very, very good. Now we're moving on from a meal, a like dinner or lunch recipe to a latte syrup. I've been loving making homemade syrups for my teas, for my tea lattes. They would be great for coffees, but this is an apple cider caramel syrup. So good. So I'm starting with apple cider, and I'm pouring it in a saucepan, and I'm going to go ahead and let this simmer for a while. It'll take like 30 to 40 minutes, and it should reduce by about half, so it'll have about 1 cup left instead of 2 cups. While the apple cider is cooking down, I'm getting started on dinner. So it's earlier in the day, but I figure I'll show you dinner and this apple pie syrup because why not? They're both really good recipes. So this is a teriyaki steak I'm making, and I'm making a marinade and the flavor for the steak, which is very simple. It is soy sauce. I actually used tamari, vinegar. I used champagne vinegar, brown sugar, onion powder, oil, olive oil. I don't show that here, but I do add it directly to the bag when I'm putting the meat in and all the sauce, garlic, ginger, and pepper, and I give it a really good mix. We love this recipe, but it is not your typical overly sweet teriyaki sauce. It's actually kind of pretty tangy. That's the word I would describe it. I would use to describe it. It's kind of like tangy and a little sour, but a little sweet too, but it's really, really good. So I'm just using some steak here. This is sirloin. I also used New York strip another night I was making this dinner. This is the second time I made this. But here I'm back to the apple cider. I'm going to go ahead and add coconut sugar. You could use brown sugar. I'm sure you could just use maple syrup or regular sugar, but coconut sugar gives it a really nice flavor. So I went ahead and did that, and then I'm going to stir it just for a few minutes while the sugar dissolves. I actually bought coconut sugar because One of my favorite creamers, I make a lot of tea lattes, is like a milk caramel cream, and it uses coconut sugar. So that's why I had it in the fridge. But I go ahead and put butter in, a couple tablespoons of butter, and let that melt. I'm going to add coconut cream. You could use heavy cream. I just thought, why not use coconut cream? And I added a little bit of salt and vanilla once I turned the heat off. Gave it a stir, and this syrup is ready. I'm just going to leave it in the saucepan just for 10 or 15 minutes until it cools a little bit before I put it in a mason jar. So now moving back to the steak, all the steak is cut up in thin strips. I went against the grain and I cut it up, and then I'm just going to put it in a Ziploc bag. You could put it in a bowl, whatever you want to marinate it in, and I just pour that sauce over it. So the steak will get tender and get so much flavor. I didn't show adding oil, but I did add olive oil. Once I mixed it up a little bit, I realized I forgot the oil. So I added a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. You could use avocado oil, whatever kind you'd like. And here's the syrup. I stored it in the fridge and it lasted about a week before it was gone. I did have to stir it every few days just because it separated a little bit, but that was no problem. Now back to dinner. I'm cutting up some broccoli. I used to think cauliflower and broccoli was just so frustrating, like so annoying to deal with. And then I realized it's actually really quick. So I'll show you real time how I cut up this entire head of broccoli. It was a pretty small head, but I just basically put it upside down and slice off the whole like stem part. And then I just cut it into smaller pieces. It works really well if you cut it pretty close to the heads, like the florets of the broccoli, then it kind of gets to almost the perfect size in my opinion if you get it pretty close to the florets of the broccoli. But that's all. I just seasoned it. I put olive oil on it, seasoned it with salt, and put that in my countertop oven. Now to test out to see if my pan is hot enough, in a pan that I put olive oil in, I just sprinkle a little bit of cold water, and then if it sizzles, it's ready. I wanted the pan to be pretty hot so it gets that nice kind of caramelization and color and a little bit of crispiness on the outside of it. So that's it. I just cook it so that nothing is touching. It doesn't crowd the pan because I want it to get a nice crisp and not just steam. So I just did it in a few batches and then took it out. So I did one batch, took it out, another batch, etc. But we love this recipe. I made it for my in-laws when they were in town. I think it's just a nice fresh take on teriyaki because it's not a really sweet teriyaki sauce, which a lot of them are. And the broccoli is ready, so that's dinner. We had rice. I just microwaved it, the steak, the teriyaki steak, and the broccoli. All three of these recipes are very, very good. I'd love for you to like this video, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you next time. Bye.